Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lights Too Bright episode. Today, I have a friend who I've known for the past 3 years, and we've become buddies mainly because we work within the same group. We're both part of the Hakeem group, and he's someone who has always been really friendly and helpful, and, will take a call if I need it. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Amit Sharma. Hi, Amit. How are you?
How doing, Doc? You okay? Thank you for the
Yeah, I'm all
kind
right, man.
words. Although
It's
I
true,
think you're a
dude.
bit too kind. It's
Right.
I'm
I don't know how
usually
you treat anyone else.
well, I'm usually messaging you about stuff. To be fair, so
Give and take, right? Give and take. We both have our areas of interest, areas of expertise, and if we can't share amongst our friends, then who can we share it with? It,
yeah, totally agree with that. I think that resonates with our personal values and also kind of the values within, as you mentioned, the group that we're in, which is the King groups, suppose, which has brought people like me and you together. Really, the like-mindedness that we share and the values that we share.
So I've brought up HG. What do you do now? I mean, what's your current role for the people who don't know you, who are listening and watching?
Yeah, sure. So I've got two groups of practices within HG. So both have got 5 practices within each group. So altogether, I've got 10 practices. So I am an IP optometrist as well. Don't practice as much, probably a couple of times a week, and that's probably because of my role looking after so many practices. I'm enjoying more the business development side of things, so looking at how to keep growing the business for my established group, which is Davis Optometrists, for the group that we just bought into, so that's DW Roberts, which are based around Milton Keynes. That's kind of just steadying the ship, and then looking at introducing change and getting the people on the team kind of on board with that change because everyone responds differently to change, as we all know, and then looking at how we can improve all aspects of the business, really, and that's exciting. And I love the challenge that groups bring, and if things work out, which hopefully they will, the results that we get, which is a nice, well-oiled, slick machine where patient care is at the forefront, and because we're focused more on the journey rather than the end process, the the results kind of show themselves. So in terms of have a very well, hopefully a very profitable business as well.
Fantastic, and it is important. I think at university sometimes we get caught up in the clinical side of stuff, and then you go into the real world, and it's a bit of a kind of smack in the face about, well, actually, you do have to look at the business element of stuff to pay the bills. If nothing else, just to pay the bills. And sometimes I think some of our newly qualified optometrists, myself included, when I came out, I was really kind of, was not aware of what the real world was like. And we do have to bear that in mind when we want to be clinically elite, but still got to actually pay the bills. So where did it all start? I mean, where are you from? Where did you grow up? Where is home?
So I was born in Wolverhampton, the Black
Okay.
Country. So in 1980. So my parents are both from North India, Punjab. So my mum came to England kind of in her early, well, say teens, but probably early teens or probably before that. My father came in 1978 with the proposition of marrying my mum, but he's the youngest of 7, so he has got kind of sisters within England. It wasn't a total leap of faith into a new country. Kind of, so he kind of sacrificed his education. So he's the first one educated in that side of the family. So he's got a degree in economics. His father sadly passed away a few months before he was due to come. So the kind of the burden of, as it is in kind of typically Asian culture, the kind of supporting the family, his mum and his elder brother, kind of fell upon him because he was kind of the sensible one, and still is. Um, and unfortunately, I didn't get that part from him. Um, yeah, so he came to this country, and then he just kind of got whatever kind of role he could really, and he didn't have a chance to pursue his passion of which was to be a lawyer actually. Because obviously you'd have to have done a conversion within England, and financial constraints, time constraints, etc. didn't allow that to happen. So yeah, that's where he's from. So he kind of ended up in a job, kind of labourer, so in a foundry, and then obviously worked his way up, and so he got shop steward, etc. And then kind of early 80s, we moved to city, well, part of Birmingham called Erdington, and my parents just kind of had a kind of a grocery store, and yeah, we were there till 2005, and then just before I got married, we moved to Sutton Coldfield, which we're living now.
Okay. So, I mean, similar story for lots of, particularly people of Indian, South Asian
Yeah,
families. Story that resonates with me, and I suspect a few of our listeners can understand that. So, how optometry? Why optometry? Did you always want to be an optometrist? Uh, did you have, yeah? Did you always want to be an optometrist?
well, again, this is very broad brush statement, but kind of typically within our kind of culture, it's always going to be kind of medicine, kind of engineer, kind of a lawyer. As them kind of they're the kind of the top three roles that I want my son stroke daughter to be. I mean, my strengths were in science, but if I'm honest, kind of I didn't have the mental capacity or the willpower kind of to do medicine. But during my summer work experience placement, so this was kind of when I was in year 10, they used to do it back then. I did I did a stint, I think, at a GP practice. I also had managed to get a placement at Specsavers in Birmingham
Okay.
New Street, when that's where they were positioned before. And honestly, I didn't even bother going to my GP, because my Specsavers stint was going to be for 1 week, and I was going to go to the GP practice the second week. But I didn't even bother going to the GP practice because I just loved what the experience I had at Specsavers, and the optometrist. So this was what, 96 ish, 95, 96. Um, I just loved it. I loved the fact that I got the clinical side ticked, as in the medical side, in terms of looking after someone's eyes, etc. And also, I suppose, again, probably from that exposure, kind of my father and having a kind of a business, I kind of got that buzz out of the retail side of it. So kind of selling an optical appliance, be it contact lenses or spectacles. And the kind of the resident optometrists at the time, they were like, "Oh, why do you want to? This is cushy. It's a 9 to 5 job, and like, it's brilliant. The salary is really good, and like, and like, as a young 14, 15-year-old kind of impressionable student, I suppose, they showed pictures of their flash cars and everything, and like, and I remember at that time, I think one of the directors, I think Mike Tyson was fighting someone in New York, and then he literally
Yeah.
went to New York for that flight, for that boxing match via Concorde. So like for the
Wow.
weekend, and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so this was obviously when Concorde was operational, and like, so all these kind of little, all these kind of bits, just kind of thought, wow, like what a, and then obviously the entry requirements. When you kind of dug deeper, it's not as well. It was nowhere near as tough as still is. Well, it is now. It's getting a bit silly now, but at that time, it wasn't as tough as kind of medicine and dentistry. So, yeah, I suppose that's kind of is a chance of finding, I suppose, optometry. But I've not looked back since. Touch wood. So,
Fantastic. Where did you go to
where
uni?
did you go to uni? University of Bradford. So I wanted to go to. So I'm a very I learn more kind of by doing things. I think it's kinesthetic learner. Is that? I think that's. Always forget the phrase.
I
So
have
kind of
no
at the
idea, mate.
universities, well, I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments.
Yeah. Not enough
At least
people
you'll
are
get one
watching.
comment.
There aren't any comments, so it's all right. Don't worry. Just me and
Yeah,
you.
you better get one at least. Eh? um, yeah, so yeah, I mean, I learn more from kind of practically doing things. So that's just my learning style. So from the university at the time, the ones that kind of resonated with me, or that I felt the course structure was kind of to my strengths, was kind of Bradford and Cardiff. I absolutely loved Cardiff. it was just like the white buildings, everything was just, oh my, I just literally fell in love. But the offer was like, I think it was like, my offer was A and two Bs or something, and I just thought, if I don't, if I, if I don't make that, then I've got no backup plan potentially. So I just decided to edge my bets, and I put Bradford as my first choice. Also, as well, my dad has got, well, at that time, three sisters living in Bradford. So, his real sisters. So I thought, and one of them, she's a widow, and I'm kind of really, she's like my kind of second mom to me. So she's got no children either. So I thought I kind of maybe save my parents some money as well, like not stay in halls or kind of rented accommodation, stay with her. She gets a little bit of company. So again, there's lots of kind of factors with kind of between my choice of Bradford as well. So and that's why I chose Bradford as my first choice, and that's where I kind of ended up.
I mean, that's really nice. Like, not, I don't know many people who would do that. They might have gone there because they have relative there and then stayed close enough but far enough away, if that makes sense. So that you can pop in and give company, but to stay with your aunt, I think that's really, really nice. And yeah, whatever you say about not being a nice guy, dude, that's that's nice guy energy, written all over it. That's really, I didn't know that. That's really nice. That's touching.
Well, I
After
think, I mean,
Bradford,
I'm still,
now go on.
sorry, I'm still very close to her. Touch her. She's kind of 80, and like even the kids, like they call her special grandma. So like Mother's Day, we kind of FaceTime her and stuff, so and all that kind of stuff. It's good that my wife and my children have also kind of, they respect that strong relationship I have with her, uh, and it's kind of followed through with that. So yeah, but I did. I know. I was assuming the next question you asked me what to do after Bradford, but I did get my Cardiff kick, by the way, because
Okay.
I managed to do later on in my educational career, I suppose, life. I managed to do my prof searching glaucoma at Cardiff. I did actually. I have got a certificate from Cardiff, so I kind of ticked that box. I didn't get to enjoy Cardiff as much as I probably wanted to, but it was only, I think, a day visit or something. But actually, I was very fortunate because at that time I did my prosthetic glaucoma. Indy Gruwell was there, and he did it. He was doing it at the same time, so it was the first time I met
Yeah.
him. So again,
Yeah.
he's such a lovely guy like yourself, and again, just we were able to obviously kind of forge that kind of friendship, etc., with him as well. So I'm very fortunate.
So my Cardiff experience, I really liked it as well, and it was actually my number two choice, but I really liked it. And my Cardiff experience was that's where I got to sit my PQEs. So
Oh, okay.
that was my experience of Cardiff, was sitting PQEs. As like tough, tough. You did old school PQEs, right? Or were you first
Yeah,
generation
yeah, yeah. So
new school
I was fortunate
PQEs?
to do my PQs at Bradford as well. So I was quite
Okay,
lucky. Yeah, that was a horrible year.
not fun. Where did you do pre-reg? Who did you pre-reg with?
So back in the time, so Vision Express used to do kind of, well, sorry, not just Vision Express. The multiples used to do kind of summer school placements, and that was kind of like a feeder for um, pre-reg, kind of getting offered a pre-reg placement. And so uh, I wasn't successful in my interview with Boots or DNA, but I was successful with Vision Express, and that's where I did my summer school placement at Trafford Centre. So I used to commute. I was fortunate to have a car, so I used to actually kind of commute every day from Bradford. So whilst I was doing my summer school placement, I stayed with my aunt as well. And actually, in my final year, I did used to do Saturday. Saturday carried on doing kind of Saturday work there as well. So that was good. Um, and then yeah, so I got offered. So that was Trafford Centre's a UK store practice, or store as they call them. And then I did my pre-reg with the joint venture practice, but in back home. So I moved back to Birmingham. So they got two practices in Sutton Coldfield and one in Spa. So I've got exposure to the more of the business side of things as well. So again, that was
Okay.
quite nice and exciting. Yeah.
And then what happened? How long were you in practice? What did you do after that? What was your next steps?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of really enjoy my time. Well, I enjoyed kind of Manchester as a city, so I wanted to kind of just, I suppose, because I never really kind of um, had uh, never really moved away from home, so to speak, or because I was living with my auntie for years. I think I felt I wanted that kind of short experience. So I'm quite a homely person by nature. So I thought a role came up within kind of Manchester as a for residency within with VE as well. So as soon as I qualified, I went back up there for 18 months or so. So I decided to go for a mobile position because I thought I'd seen like some newly qualified optometrists, they get so stuck in their comfort zone in that same room, and then like if they had to move to another room, even if it's in the same practice, they literally just like think, oh my God, the world's come to the end. Like, how do I use this proctor or this test chart or that split lamp or everything? And I didn't want to um, kind of become like that. I just wanted to be able to be adaptable to kind of any working environment. So that's why I decided to kind of have a mobile position, and it was great because I was actually 3 days at Chester, and then I was 2 days wherever within the region of. So my furthest north practice was uh, Blackpool, and the furthest south, although I never actually worked in that one, was Stoke Hanley. So that was the only one I didn't work in. I worked in all the others, but yeah, it was great. It was great sometimes because I'll rock up at like say Chester, and then I'll get a phone call, oh, someone's called in sick, so can you go to, you know, blah blah blah, and then, you know, by the time you get there, it'd be like 12 o'clock, and because of traffic or whatever, and so it was fun. It was good, really, meeting lots of different people and dealing with different demographic of patients. So like Birkenhead, high pathology, older patients. Then your Trafford Centre, young patients, high average order value, average dispense value. And then Liverpool City Centre, they just opened the new optical lab there. That was again high average order value, younger patients. And then Blackpool's tough. I hate working, but genuinely hate. Yeah, I just didn't like it. I think yeah, just the town was nothing against Blackpool people, of course, all the town. It just didn't resonate very well
Now,
with me. And I
now
think
you're going
every
to
time
get comments. Now you're going to get
I'm gonna get
comments.
you said he was nice, but like every time I went, it was like raining, miserable. And then like I just used to have the worst clinics ever as well. Like, oh, it's just like, yeah, like them days are like 20-minute tests. So like, so at least for some practices now, 20-minute tests and like, a lot of pathology and like, you literally like squeezing the pips out for a batch of values. Oh my God, this is hard.
Yeah, you're earning your money uh, when
Oh
when
man.
you're in some places like that. So when did you first get into the business side of things? When did you first go, right, I'm ready to be a business owner?
I don't know if I'm ready now, to be fair. As I said, I suppose kind of my parents' background. I mean, regardless of what it is, it's still a business, whether it's a convenience store or an optician, you're still kind of providing a service and you're still providing a product. So although I always said, oh, I never want to have a shop, it's quite ironic now. I got 10 of them. So, but I enjoyed that side, but I do get a buzz from the retail side of things. And as I said to you earlier on in the start of our conversation, the one thing that I really enjoyed in my work experience placement at Specsavers was the retail side, the buzz I got of kind of giving really nice eyewear to kind of patients. So yeah, so it was always back in my mind, and again, kind of family pressure. You've well, not pressure. Sorry, my dad kind of saying, maybe the entrepreneur in him say, son, I really would like you to kind of, you have your own business, because there's nothing more um, fulfilling than kind of having your own basically, and something to kind of show for your hard work and things like that. So yeah, so that was always on the back burner, and I ended up kind of having after a little bit of a sabbatical. So I kind of left VE when I came back down south. I went to work for Optical Express for 18 months. So I did the pre and post laser stuff with them. Uh, but that was mainly covering my base practice didn't do that, so it was mainly covering if someone was on holiday at the Birmingham New Street, where when there's a new street, and he suddenly went up to Sheffield as well. But it was good, it was tough again because like they didn't give you any extra time to do the other tests, so you had to do all the pachymetry, the dilation, have the conversation with the patient, so the counselling and everything, all within that whatever it was, 25 minutes or something. But yeah, it was good, I enjoyed it, and you know, luckily I didn't see any horrible stuff kind of during my post follow-ups and stuff. Mm. Yeah, and then at that time, knowing that I was in talks with Vision Express, opportunity came to work for Boots. they were kind of starting this Optom manager kind of dual role. So I thought, a
Yeah.
big organization like Boots, they're just known for their, great structure and everything and training. So I thought I might as well kind of, learn from them really. So I was with them for a year, during which I got married, and then the opportunity came up to get my first Vision Express franchise at that time because they kind of changed their model, and that was a new start practice in Stratford upon Avon.
Okay. How old were you when you got your franchise?
26.
Okay. So, I mean, relatively
Yeah,
quick, 5-year
yeah,
period.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
And
didn't
how
want to do
long
it
were
by
you with?
myself. Yeah, I didn't want to do it by myself because I just didn't feel that. I mean, I think it was more the financial pressure. I think because my father was kind enough to kind of support me financially.
Okay.
That kind of, although he's never said it, and Tuesday he never said it, but I felt that own kind of burden on my shoulders that my father has kind of worked. My mum, both my parents have worked so hard. I want to make sure that I'm able to kind of give their money back, so to speak, and make them hopefully proud. So I think that pressure in itself, and I mean, to be honest, at 26, I cringe when I look back at some of the other decisions, but it's all part of the journey that you make as a leader, or, well, I suppose it's more of a manager then. Uh, no one's really born as a leader unless you're exceptionally talented, but most of us aren't. Uh, yeah, so I always wanted to do it with someone. So the initial plan was to do it with my best friend, but he unfortunately went through some personal issues, so he had to pull out, and then I kind of backed out from V because of I didn't want to go alone, and then there was someone who lived in Stratford upon Avon who was non-optics background. He was a business development consultant, so he used to do a lot of kind of the customer service training for Porsche,
Yeah.
Lexus, etc., BMW, and he was struggling to find an optometrist. And then, like an arranged marriage, I suppose, V said, we've got someone who wants to, um, be
Yeah.
a partner, but he doesn't want to go alone, and you want an optometrist one and just kind of meet and just have a chat, and we did. We met, had a chat. Our values seemed to be aligned, and he was 10 years older, and he had great aspirations of kind of having multiple practices, and that excited me as well. And yeah, the rest kind of history. Yeah, so we then a year after, well, within 7 months, we had our second franchise, which was all in Hereford, so in Prof Rumley's county, or
Yeah.
city, I should say. But that was an already existing practice, so it was just us taking over. And then a few years after that, we had our third um, store, which was in Barnstable. But at that point, Vision Express were shifting their focus from joint venture, so back to joint ventures, because they had a few rogue kind of franchisees. So the kind of deal was that if you were to have the third practice, then we had to be all three would have to
JV.
become joint ventures. Yeah, which was fine. We took the decision to do that, and we did. Yeah.
For those people listening who don't quite get what a JV is, are you able to very quickly summarize the difference between a franchise and a JV?
So, okay, I'll try my best. So, a franchise, so there's lots of franchise. Example of other franchise would be like kind of Subway, kind of McDonald's. So, you are utilizing the brand. So, in this case, for myself, it was Vision Express. But with that, you pay a fee. Um, so, with that fee includes things like marketing, um, HR support, and it's normally a percentage of your turnover.
Okay.
In essence, with the franchise, when I go and rent a property, I'm going as Amit Limited, or wherever, because I'm not going as Vision Express. So that can make landlords nervous because obviously there's no history. Although you're trading as a Vision Express, but still it's still my own entity. So I'm taking all the liability in essence. So I think houses were kind of secured against the loan, etc. as well. So it's a big financial risk, and so you're kind of responsible for everything really with a franchise. So the only thing, as I said, you've got is the brand, which is obviously very powerful. That's why people tend to
Yeah.
go for that. Yeah. A joint venture is kind of, as the kind of name suggests. Now, there's different versions of joint venture. So the joint venture model at Vision Express was little and Specsavers, I think, is very different to how we're used to care at HG. But in essence, it's a partnership. So you're kind of both in it together, and I suppose you get extra support with that in terms of the back office support. Obviously, there's a fee associated with that as well. But again, the Vision Express model, they have A shares and B shares. So kind of the A shares are the kind of, in essence, I think the purchasing shares, if I remember correctly, and B shares are kind of voting rights. So Vision Express, in this sense, will always have the greater percentage of the voting rights. So that, in essence, if something came up, they'd always have the casting vote.
Yeah.
And the A shares are just kind of us putting our investment in, I suppose, and us drawing kind of dividends if the business
Okay.
allows. I think, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I have my own sort of understanding of it, which is on par with yours. But I'm sitting there
Yeah,
thinking,
I
yeah,
mean,
actually, you know
I've
what?
not done it
I don't know.
justice, but
Yeah, well, I don't know who's listening to this. So if anyone is listening to this, so I thought let me just clarify it
protest.
because it's not come up before. You're the first multi-practice owner that has been kind enough to talk to me. So VE, how many years did you do with VE?
Together from, well, if you include my summer school, from 2000 to 2019, with a break of about 2.5 years, so about 16 years.
Yeah. Now I know you stepped away from VE, and I don't know why. It's not something that we necessarily have to discuss that. But before you came back in with HG, what did you do then? Did you go straight out of VE into HG, or was there career gap? Did you
Yeah, I
decide you were
did.
going to do something else?
I think I was at Crossroads. I absolutely loved my time with you initially. It was absolutely amazing. And, there's a lot of people during my early days who are actually now part of a King Group who work at HG. Just kind of at that time when I joined, owned by Grand Vision, so it's a very French people focused, premium, very premium kind of multiple. So if you wanted that kind of multiple experience and a premium product, kind of Vision Express was the place to go. Kind of like what happens, you get a change of CEO and the company kind of changes direction. So kind of over time, I'd say I fell out of love with kind of Vision Express because it wasn't what I signed up for. Now that's me personally. Obviously, they're very successful, and their decision was not based on Amit's practice, but obviously, 600 practices, which is the
Yeah,
right thing for them. And kind of hard feelings on that essence, but I didn't know kind of whether I fell out of it was VE or the industry, the optics itself, um, or or because of the drive. So at that stage, when I started to get kind of touchy feet, so about 2016, I was blessed with my fourth child, which was a surprise. I now know what I need to do. I've learned my lesson. Watch Netflix. And we had kind of consolidated our practices. So we just had the one practice in Hereford. So I was kind of traveling around about 4 to 4.5 hours a day. So that was kind of, with 4 kids and traveling and testing, and being in clinic. It was kind of taking its toll, really. And then one day I kind of fell asleep at the wheel. Luckily, it was at a roundabout, as in, so I'd only just, I wasn't traveling fast, 5 miles an hour, but I
yeah,
hit another car. No one was injured, but it was kind of a wake up call for me that I need to do something different. I need to change really. So it's round about then really I started to kind of so the summer of 2016 when I started to kind of think of an an exit plan really. It got quite complicated because Hereford's quite difficult to get to.
yeah,
It kind of is 75 miles away, but because of half of it's kind of motorway and half of it's kind of country road. So as I said, it can take if you're very lucky, you do an hour and 20 minutes, but typically you're not. And as I said, it can take 2.5 hours. So to find someone who wants to kind of buy your business and who can afford to buy it and also be prepared for that travel, it takes, well, like with anything, you're selling your house or whatever, it's the unknown really. And also at that time, my business partner wasn't sure whether he wanted to stay on or whether he wanted to go. So that kind of delayed a lot of the kind of the conversations. So I said it kind of ended up taking 3 years, just over 3 years,
okay,
just to kind of finally sell. So again, during that time, you get more and more. kind of, I suppose, frustrated because, like, I mean, hopefully I think I was fine. And when I was at work, as soon as I crossed that line, it's important that you maintain that level of professionalism with your kind of staff under your care, but also the patients, because, at the end of the day, something mantra I always use is kind of make the effort match the effort. Patients made the effort to come into my practice. You don't know what they've had to do to come in there, get a carer, for the old elderly parent, or find care for the young children or wherever. It's so I've got to make sure that I give them 100% of my time when they come in. So I think hopefully that shows. And I still got my ex-employees, still talk to them still. So I think hopefully I was still a positive character despite my where my head was at in terms of wanting an exit route. So it's that time when I started kind of having a look at what else was available. So I went to 100% Optical and I saw Luke Wren, who's now part of HG. He used to work for Leighton's then. So we just
Yeah,
started having a chat. He said, "Oh, come, let's have a chat." Then started talking to him. So I kind of paid my deposit for the franchise, and obviously they're kind of more based down south, but they were looking to, or they're in talks with a practice near me. So I don't know what practice that was, and so that's why I kind of thought, okay, let's have a chat. Luke left. And then Ryan, kind of my conversation started going with Ryan, and he said, "Oh, that practice kind of fell through." So he said, his passion was kind of grow the hearing part of his business, and because of where I am in the Midlands, it'd be difficult for them to potentially find a practice for me. So he said, he gave me my deposit back. I said, obviously, if something comes up, great. If not, then we'll be in touch. If not, then all the best. And then one kind of Easter Sunday, I was looking through the optician magazine. I never read the optician magazine. I just used to get it for the sake of getting it. But it was fate, I suppose. And there's a picture there with HG, who I just won the small Sunday Times small best companies. And in that picture was my practice manager from Trafford Centre when I did my summer school placement. So I've never heard of kind of Imran before there, or the Hakeem Group. Luckily, this is the time when you could do a quick Google search and you think, it's very impressive what he's achieved. I had a call from Shaf on that within half an hour, and the rest is history, really.
fantastic. That it's a repeated uh, theme that comes up in all of these is people knowing people and relationship building, and because the profession is so small, how someone you meet 2 years ago potentially can have a huge impact on your career and the journey you take further down. The paths you take. So we've literally just cracked 33 minutes, dude. Absolutely flying. It's been great. But the aim of this pod, YouTube, depending on how you're absorbing this content, we're going to try and keep it to about 30 minutes. You've brought us back to where you are now, which is fantastic. Two questions. One, do you miss not being in the consulting room as much as you have done previously? Would be the first question, and not a long answer, just
Yeah. If I'm honest, I do dread when it's a consulting day. So I
okay.
had one on Saturday. Um, but again, when I'm there, I enjoy it because I just love the interactions with people. I mean, something you mentioned a moment ago about relationship building. I would say one of my key strengths is, I think the phrase now has been coined, emotional intelligence. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but I think that is one of my key strengths, and using it with a true heart. It's not through manipulation. So that's the key, because there's lots of books out there that you can misinterpret it, that how to kind of be devious and manipulative. So it's not that way. It's just about, and I think it's simple. Just be honest. Do what you say you're gonna do, and just be nice to people. It's three really basic, I feel, traits, really. I mean, it's not rocket science, and then you can go, if you want to really deep dive into kind of the specifics of emotional intelligence, or whatever, then you can do. But I think them the key three traits have stood me good so far in my life, and I never really want to lose them, and I would say they're kind of my non-negotiables, and I think that's important for me. and that's why I enjoy kind of when I'm in the customer room. I enjoy it because I enjoy talking to people because everyone's got a different story to tell, but I can only get that story out of them if I talk to them. What's their hobbies, or, what does they do for a living, blah 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 blah. So so I do enjoy it. And I enjoy the great thing about being part of the independent sector is we're not just refractionists, and there's nothing wrong with just being that if that's what you enjoy. So I'm not knocking those in our profession who just enjoy that, because that's what makes them tick. One thing that excites me about our sector is in the independent sector that in essence the world is our oyster, and we've got things like, we've just bought in IPL in our group of practices. We've got sports vision. We've just invested in the dry macular degeneration treatment as well, the Veleda. So there's lots of things, lots of strings to the bow that I've been able to add clinically since I've been part of, the independent sector. And the great thing is being part of HG is that we're very fortunate that we've got industry leading clinicians like yourself, who are kind enough to give their time and help kind of us on our path. So, I've spoken to you about IP, I've spoken to you about IPL as well. So there's many things that, you've been kind enough to share your time. And there's many like kind of you within our group. And I think it goes back to what we talked about before, really. I suppose it's just the values, our personal values resonate with Imran's values, and that's why we're kind of partners with him.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think
Okay.
that's pretty good. I'm gonna give you one last question, then we're gonna go because well, I think we're gonna crack 40 minutes, mate. This is gonna be the longest one. I mean, you've given some really nice insight, and there's some really nice little pearls in there within the talk. But if you were to pick one piece of advice that you would give someone, either professionally, personally, just kind of a nice piece of advice that has helped you or that maybe would help them, what would that be?
Something my father says: do good and forget. So I suppose in everything that you do it with a true heart, and then eventually good stuff will happen. Eventually, if you believe in well, we're both kind of spiritual care, um, um, but I mean, I don't think you have to be spiritual just to believe that. I think, you know, that's what I'll say. And, my journey with Vision Express was tough in terms of financially, it was very tough. So them 16 years, extremely tough. And, but it that journey I wouldn't be able to appreciate what I've got now, and those kind of learnings that I had, I would not be able to enjoy what I've got now and grow further and help. And I suppose that's why I like to kind of talk to people and help people. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert because I'm far from an expert, but hopefully, even if I say one thing to someone and I'm able to help them on their journey, I think that's me giving back to society, really, because, generally, we can't all do things alone. There's going to be someone in your life. It doesn't have to be a friend or your loved one or anything like that. It could be a stranger, that someone will come and they'll put you, just say something, do something that puts you on the path that the right path, whatever that right path is for you, either spiritually or financially or, professionally or whatever. I think things happen for a reason, and so I'd say just do things, have purity in the heart with whatever you do, and just don't give up, and but at the same time enjoy the lows, and then you'll be able to appreciate the highs. Well, not enjoy the lows, sorry. Take the lows in your stride, and then you'll be able to enjoy the highs even more, because that's life. Again, this is getting spiritual now. It's just, and no one's got
That's a
a
different
true.
podcast. That's a different
That's a
podcast.
different
That's not
podcast.
me.
Well, maybe that's one that you can, if your listeners like what we've talked about, maybe we can do another one on that. Life's never kind of plain sailing, is it? It's never, it's always up and down. It's just about you just got to try and enjoy, be optimistic. I mean, that's the one thing I used to say. One of my non-negotiable would be positive, but actually that's the wrong word. Following the HG retreat last year, optimism is a better word, because optimism means that despite when things are tough, you realize that hopefully things will get better, and the sun will always rise.
Fantastic. With that, I will thank you very much. And thank you, Amit, for taking the time to join me this evening. I
It's been a
will,
pleasure,
yeah, thank you very much.
even though you've got a Liverpool shirt on.
just for you,
Things me.
just for you.
Oh man.